If your urgent miracle still hasn't arrived, stay with me until the end. Saint Anthony of Padua is already moving heaven on your behalf. I know your heart is heavy. Maybe you're carrying the burden of a financial emergency, or your soul aches from a broken relationship. Perhaps someone you love is fighting for their life, or you're drowning in silent desperation. Whatever brought you here, this isn't a coincidence. This is the moment your miracle begins. Prayer to Saint Anthony has touched the lives of millions, but today it's for you. If you've reached your limit, if you feel like you're about to break, take a breath and don't give up just yet, because what seems impossible is where Saint Anthony starts. He walks with those in desperate cases, those searching for healing, restoration of homes, and those needing to find what was lost. Open your heart now. Something sacred is about to happen. Comment below. Amen, Saint Anthony. Surprise me with a miracle today. Saint Anthony of Padua, we come to you today, not with perfect words, but with broken hearts. Some are watching this with tears streaming down their faces. Others are silently screaming for help. We have tried everything and still the pain remains. But we believe in your miraculous prayer today, Saint Anthony, because where logic ends, divine mercy begins. So we kneel in trust. Hear the cries of those who have no one else to turn to. You've helped those who had lost everything: money, health, loved ones, even hope itself. Your life was marked by miracles, not because you were lucky, but because you understood how heaven responds to urgent faith. We stand now in that same place of surrender. Take these impossible requests and lay them at God's feet. Let our voices echo through eternity as one. Saint Anthony, intercede for us. The miracle we need is not delayed, it's being prepared. To everyone still doubting, still battling, still hoping, listen, you didn't press play by accident. There is a spiritual law at work right now. If you stop here, you may miss the breakthrough that could restore your home, your child, your soul. This very powerful prayer to Saint Anthony is not just a tradition, it's a divine appointment. Stay until the final word. There's something coming that you can't afford to miss. If you believe your time has come, type in the comments, Saint Anthony, I'm still here and I'm still believing. The unexpected door opens when you surrender. There comes a moment when the noise of life quiets down just enough for your soul to whisper, I can't carry this anymore. That's the moment Saint Anthony hears you. He's not waiting for perfect prayers. He's responding to broken spirits, trembling hands, and silent tears. Because in the most desperate silence, heaven begins to move. And Saint Anthony, he moves with it. This first mystery is about surrender, real gut-deep surrender, the kind that says, Lord, if you don't show up now, I won't make it. That's when Saint Anthony steps in, not just to offer comfort, but to guide you to the one door that can still open. You've tried every option, but now, try surrender. Prayer that works instantly begins where control ends. Many people think that miracles come when everything is perfectly aligned. But the truth is, they often come when everything is falling apart. It's when you say, I don't know how, but I still believe, that something sacred begins to unfold. Saint Anthony doesn't wait for the storm to pass. He walks into it, holding your hand. One woman in Mexico prayed to Saint Anthony after her house burned down. She had nothing left, not even hope. But within 3 days, someone donated clothes, money, and a place to stay. 3 months later, she was in a new home, working again, and said, "It started with surrender." That's what this mystery teaches us. If you're facing a financial emergency, let this be your declaration. I surrender control. Saint Anthony sees the unpaid bills, the overdue rent, the debt collectors calling. But beyond all of that, he sees your faith, and that is enough. When you let go, God begins to place in your hands what you thought you'd never recover. This isn't about giving up. It's about handing over the battle to someone stronger. Saint Anthony doesn't just know where you are, he's already on the way. The powerful Catholic prayer for miracles begins with this deep release. I can't, but God can. Say it, mean it. Let the miracle begin in your surrender. A man once said, "When I stopped trying to fix everything, everything started getting fixed." That's not just poetic, that's spiritual law. Prayer to Saint Anthony operates in surrender. It invites God into the room, into the mess, into the unfixable. And when he enters, nothing stays the same. Maybe your family has fallen apart. Maybe words were spoken that shattered relationships. But Saint Anthony doesn't just help you find lost things. He helps you find lost peace, lost forgiveness, lost connection. If you need restoration of family relationships, bring that before him right now. He restores what feels beyond repair. Don't be afraid to say what hurts. Speak the name of the person you've lost touch with. Whisper the wound that won't close. Saint Anthony isn't shocked by your pain. He's moved by it. Miraculous prayer to Saint Anthony doesn't ignore the wound. It goes straight to the heart of it and brings healing. Sometimes the answer isn't immediate, but the atmosphere changes. You feel a little lighter, you sleep a little better. That's not coincidence. That's the spiritual signal that the door is opening. Keep walking in faith. Heaven never ignores surrender. Heaven responds. If your need feels impossible, that's exactly the kind Saint Anthony specializes in. He made a vow in life to help those who suffer in silence, and he hasn't broken that promise from heaven. You are not too late. You are not too broken. And your situation is not too far gone. This impossible prayer that works does more than fix what's visible. It transforms the way you carry your pain. You move from panic to peace, from worry to worship. That's the beginning of a real miracle. The shift from fear to faith. Let it begin now. There's something sacred about reaching the end of your strength. That's when God's strength shows up the most. Saint Anthony helps you tap into that divine energy. You don't have to know the outcome, just take the next step. Miracles begin at the edge of your limit. If you've lost something, a job, a relationship, a sense of purpose, ask Saint Anthony to help you find it again. Not just the thing itself, but what it gave you. Peace, confidence, joy. The patron saint of lost things is also the saint of restored hearts. Maybe you've prayed before and nothing happened, but something brought you back here. That's not just hope. That's faith growing under the surface. Don't quit now. Miraculous prayer today means today. Even now. Even here. In surrender, pride falls away. The need to have it all together disappears. And what's left is your real self, the one God loves without condition. Saint Anthony presents that version of you to heaven, and heaven answers. Take a moment. Close your eyes. Say out loud, I surrender this to you, Saint Anthony. Feel the weight lift. Not because the problem is gone yet, but because you're no longer carrying it alone. That's the beginning of the breakthrough. Someone watching this right now has been holding back tears. Let them fall. Miracles flow through honesty. And prayer that works instantly begins when you get real with yourself, with God, with Saint Anthony. This first mystery teaches us to stop performing and start trusting. You don't need the right words, just the right heart. And the heart that says, "I trust you," is the one that draws urgent help from heaven. If you're still waiting for a sign, this is it. This video, these words, this breath. You've already stepped into the miracle zone, and Saint Anthony is not done yet. Say it again, "I surrender," and watch what happens next. Write this in the comments now with faith. I surrender, and I trust the miracle is already on the way. When faith meets the impossible, there's a moment in every believer's journey when the mountain doesn't move, the storm doesn't cease, and the silence from heaven feels unbearable. It's in that moment that true faith begins. Not faith in what you see, but faith in what you know. This is where prayer to Saint Anthony becomes more than a request. It becomes a lifeline. You've prayed, you've cried, and still the problem remains. But listen closely. Just because you don't see the miracle yet doesn't mean it's not in motion. Heaven works in layers. Some blessings are instant, others are constructed over time to support something greater than you expected. Saint Anthony understands delay. His mission to Morocco ended in failure, or so it seemed. But that sickness that turned his ship around, that storm that redirected his life, was actually divine redirection. That's how miracles often arrive, hidden in detours. You might be in a season of redirection. What felt like a setback could be the setup for something you never imagined. Maybe the job you lost made room for the purpose you were born for. Maybe the relationship that ended was God's way of clearing space for someone who will truly love you. The very powerful prayer to Saint Anthony is a prayer for the impossible, but it's also a prayer for patience. Because when you trust in Saint Anthony's intercession, you trust that God's no is sometimes not yet, and not yet still holds the seed of your miracle. A woman once prayed to Saint Anthony for years for a child. Doctors said it was impossible. She stopped praying for a while. Then one day she found herself praying again, not out of desperation, but faith. 9 months later, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy. That's the power of believing beyond the silence. You don't need to feel strong. You just need to stay connected. Keep praying, even when your voice shakes. That is the kind of faith Saint Anthony responds to, trembling but unwavering, honest, vulnerable, full of expectation in the face of impossibility. This mystery invites you to look deeper than the surface, to trust that the work God is doing in secret will one day burst into the open. Some miracles grow like seeds underground, unseen, but not inactive. And when they break through, they bring restoration of homes, families, finances, and hearts. If your loved one is sick, hold on. If your marriage is strained, keep showing up in prayer. If you're facing desperate cases, Saint Anthony knows the terrain. He's walked with widows, the sick, the lost, and the hopeless. He hasn't failed them, and he won't fail you. Sometimes God delays a blessing not to deny you, but to deepen you. Miracles that take time are often miracles that last. They change not just your situation, but your soul. And powerful Catholic prayers for miracles are meant to transform you from the inside out. Let Saint Anthony teach you that waiting is not wasting, it's preparing, it's trusting. It's resting in the knowledge that God's hand is still writing your story, even when the page seems blank. This is where heaven does its best work. Remember, Saint Anthony didn't just find lost objects. He helped people recover their hope, their purpose, their faith. That's what this mystery is about, finding what the world told you was lost for good. But with God, and with Saint Anthony, nothing is ever truly lost. You're not forgotten, you're not invisible, and you're certainly not abandoned. God sees you, Saint Anthony walks with you, and this miraculous prayer today is a bridge between your need and heaven's answer. A man once prayed this prayer while sleeping in his car. He had lost everything, his job, his wife, his dignity. One night in tears he whispered, "Saint Anthony, help me." The next morning, a stranger offered him a job. Within 6 months he had a home and had reconciled with his wife. Never underestimate whispered prayers. This miracle is possible for you. Say it again. Saint Anthony, I believe in the impossible. That phrase alone shakes the spiritual realm, because it means you've stopped looking at your problem and started looking at God's promise. Don't compare your timeline to someone else's. God's work in your life is handcrafted, custom designed. Saint Anthony knows that each story unfolds at the speed of transformation, not impatience. He's guiding yours with love. If anxiety has been whispering lies to your heart, telling you that you're too late, too unworthy, too far gone, silence it now. Those lies die in the presence of faith, and Saint Anthony's presence silences fear with authority. This prayer that works instantly works because it re-centers your spirit. It draws your eyes away from the storm and back to the Savior, from the impossible situation to the God of impossible requests, from what you've lost to what you're about to gain. Faith doesn't deny reality. It declares that God's reality is bigger than yours. If your finances are broken, if your home is in chaos, if your heart is weary, declare today, God's reality is restoration, not ruin. Saint Anthony will carry that declaration to the throne of grace. Miracles don't come to the strongest. They come to the most surrendered, not to the perfect, but to the persistent. If you're still here, still praying, still watching, you're closer than you think. Don't let go now. Heaven is listening, Saint Anthony is interceding. Your tears are not wasted, your voice is not unheard. This moment is holy. Let the urgent miracle begin, not because you demanded it, but because you believed it. As you pray this, know that thousands are praying with you. You're part of something bigger, a chorus of faith that rises from every corner of the earth. And Saint Anthony stands at the center, lifting your cry to God. Write this now, if you believe your miracle is already in motion. I still believe, even when I don't see it yet. The hidden power behind Saint Anthony's voice. There's something extraordinary that happens when a prayer leaves your lips and lands in the heart of a saint who truly cares. Saint Anthony didn't just walk the earth, he walked beside the broken, the lost, the forgotten, and he still does. That's the secret behind miraculous prayers to Saint Anthony. He feels your pain as if it were his own. In this mystery, we go deeper into the very force that turns ordinary words into unstoppable intercession. You may wonder, why would heaven listen to me? But here's the truth. When Saint Anthony speaks your name before God, it carries weight. a holy urgency backed by 8 centuries of answered prayers. Think of Saint Anthony as a bridge, not just between heaven and earth, but between your desperation and divine action. You don't have to convince God of your worth. You only need to trust that your prayer, carried in the hands of a faithful intercessor, reaches the throne with unstoppable grace. Some people treat prayer like a last resort, but those who understand the mystery of intercession know it's the first line of defense. It's not about begging, it's about connecting. And when you connect with a saint who knows suffering, who knows loss, who knows restoration, your impossible requests meet divine compassion. Saint Anthony was never too important for the poor, too busy for the desperate, too distant for the forgotten. His greatest miracles weren't always loud, they were precise. He found the things that mattered most: peace, faith, loved ones, and hope. That's what he's doing for you right now. A woman once prayed to Saint Anthony after her teenage daughter ran away. She had no leads, no help, just pain. She clutched a small medal of the saint and whispered his name over and over. 3 days later, her daughter called home. That wasn't luck. That was faith meeting intercession. Miracles don't happen because we're eloquent. They happen because we're willing to believe, willing to open our hearts, willing to say, "Saint Anthony, I can't do this alone." And that whisper is more powerful than any sermon. In this moment, Saint Anthony is not looking at your resume of mistakes. He's looking at your willingness to hope again. He brings your cry before God with the voice of someone who's seen divine mercy firsthand. That's why he's called the miracle worker of our age. Do you believe you're beyond saving? Too broken? Too late? Saint Anthony says, "Then you're exactly the one I was sent for." He came not for the righteous, but the wrecked. Not for the perfect, but the desperate. This is your moment. If you've been hiding your pain, now is the time to bring it into the light. Speak it out loud, even if your voice shakes. Say, "Saint Anthony, here is my burden. Carry it to heaven for me." That's the start of transformation. This powerful Catholic prayer for miracles is not a performance. It's not about saying the right thing. It's about inviting heaven into the most wounded parts of your story and letting a holy friend guide those cries upward. Saint Anthony's intercession doesn't just bring answers, it brings alignment. Suddenly you find yourself thinking clearer, breathing deeper, hoping harder, not because life got easier, but because you stopped carrying it alone. If your soul feels tired, Saint Anthony knows that feeling. He's walked with the spiritually exhausted, the emotionally drained, the financially crushed. And his prayer for you isn't rushed. It's soaked in compassion and fire. You may have cried yourself to sleep, but he's been praying over you through the night. His intercession doesn't end when you close your eyes. It begins there. The greatest miracles often come when you've run out of tears and strength. If your heart is broken over a family member, you're not alone. Saint Anthony specializes in restoration of family relationships. He doesn't just bring prodigals home. He rebuilds the bridges that pain has burned. He speaks peace where conflict lived for years. One man prayed to Saint Anthony for his alcoholic son. Nothing changed for weeks, but then a sudden shift. His son came to him one night weeping and asked for help. They prayed together for the first time in years. That is the miraculous prayer today. When you lift your voice in this prayer, you're not shouting into the void. You're joining a symphony of believers, voices old and new, ancient and modern, all echoing the same cry. Saint Anthony, intercede for us. Don't underestimate what happens in this kind of prayer. Chains break, light enters, miracles begin. And not because we're worthy, but because God is merciful and Saint Anthony is faithful. Healing doesn't always begin in hospitals. It often begins in prayer. When you ask Saint Anthony to lift up your illness, physical, emotional, or spiritual, something moves in the heavenlies. The body may be tired, but the spirit rises. If you're praying for someone else, know this: your prayer is not in vain. Saint Anthony honors intercessors. He multiplies their requests. He covers their loved ones in grace. He brings hope to hospital beds, courtrooms, and kitchen tables alike. Do you feel forgotten? You're not. Saint Anthony remembers the names others overlook. He carries the intentions that no one else knows. Your secret pain is not invisible to heaven. This mystery calls you to release fear and hold on to intercession. Let Saint Anthony carry what's too heavy for you. Trust that your words, combined with his, form a sacred dialogue that moves the heart of God. You are not praying alone. Right now, across countries and time zones, others are praying with you. Some of them will see their miracle because you had the courage to keep praying. That's the mystery of shared faith. When you say Amen at the end of this prayer, remember, Saint Anthony is still saying your name in heaven, still knocking, still believing, still asking for your urgent miracle. Write this in the comments now if your heart is aligned with heaven. Saint Anthony, speak my name before God today. Total surrender, the place where miracles are born. There is a sacred shift that happens when you no longer pray for God to fix everything, but ask Him to change you in the middle of everything. This mystery is about that shift, where miracles stop being demands and start becoming divine gifts, where your prayer isn't just for answers, it's for transformation. Saint Anthony invites us not only to seek solutions, but to surrender expectations, to let go of the timeline, the how, the when. This is the place where heaven breathes. When you release your grip, miracles become possible. Prayer to Saint Anthony here is not an escape, it's an encounter. Maybe you've prayed with clenched fists. Now it's time to open your hands, not just to receive, but to release. Release the bitterness, release the deadline, release the story you told yourself about how this had to happen. Miracles often begin with open hands and an open heart. Saint Anthony knew what it meant to let go. He gave up prestige, possessions, and personal comfort, all for something greater. That's why his miraculous prayer has such power. It comes from a life of radical surrender. He's not asking you to give up everything, only what's holding you back. Do you trust God even when nothing makes sense, when healing hasn't come yet, when the finances still don't add up, when the door remains shut? Saint Anthony teaches that surrender doesn't mean weakness, it means wisdom. It means knowing where your strength ends and where grace begins. This is the restoration of homes, not just fixing the roof or the bills, but rebuilding hearts, healing silent resentments, reconciling generations. Miracles happen in homes that surrender pride, embrace prayer, and make room for grace. Saint Anthony walks through these doors. If you're the only one in your family praying, keep praying. Heaven doesn't need a crowd to move. It only needs one faithful voice. And yours is enough. Saint Anthony hears it, and your impossible requests are not ignored. They're being carried now. Think of the things you've been trying to control. The prodigal child, the crumbling marriage, the uncertain job. What would happen if you gave them fully to God through Saint Anthony's intercession? Not with fear, but with faith. That's when peace enters the room. This mystery is not about giving up hope. It's about giving up control. Surrendering doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start trusting. The miraculous prayer to Saint Anthony is most powerful when spoken from a surrendered soul. Do you feel tired from fighting a battle that never ends? Maybe it's not your battle to fight anymore. Maybe the victory you're seeking will only come when you lay down the sword and lift up your hands in prayer. Let Saint Anthony fight for you. Some miracles don't arrive because our hearts are still tangled with fear. Fear blocks faith. Fear builds walls around hope. Surrender tears down those walls. When Saint Anthony brings your desperate cases to God, it's with boldness, because surrender has replaced fear. Imagine what it feels like to finally breathe, to stop trying to fix everyone and everything. That's what surrender gives you. It creates space for God to do what only He can. And Saint Anthony, he specializes in helping people breathe again. One woman said that the moment she stopped begging and started trusting, her miracle arrived within 48 hours. Not because she manipulated heaven, but because her surrendered heart created the conditions for heaven to act. Are you willing to say, Lord, however you want to answer, I receive it. That's powerful. That opens the floodgates. Saint Anthony rushes to those who pray with that kind of faith, not demanding a miracle, but welcoming it. You're not praying alone. Saints, angels, the faithful across time, they're surrounding you right now. You're part of a heavenly community that prays not for outcomes, but for encounters. That's what changes everything. If your burden has felt unbearable, hand it over. If your faith feels thin, Saint Anthony will carry it. He's helped the hopeless for centuries. He'll help you too. But he needs you to release the outcome and trust the process. Picture yourself standing before God with Saint Anthony beside you. You're not arguing your case. You're simply saying, I trust you. That's what this powerful Catholic prayer for miracles is built on. Trust, not transaction. Many people pray to Saint Anthony as a last resort, but in truth, he's the beginning of real surrender. He leads you past panic and into peace, from striving into rest. That's where miracles flourish. When we surrender, we stop worshipping the outcome and start trusting the one who controls it. Saint Anthony brings your prayer to God, not as a list of demands, but as an offering. And God honors that offering with divine abundance. You may not even know what you need. That's okay. Surrender says, God, you know better than I do. And heaven responds to that kind of humility with unstoppable grace. That's how healing begins, not just of bodies, but of hearts. If your future feels uncertain, surrender it. If your past haunts you, surrender it. If your present confuses you, surrender it. All of it becomes holy in the hands of God, especially when placed there by Saint Anthony. Let this be your prayer today. Saint Anthony, I surrender what I cannot change, and I welcome what only heaven can bring. That posture moves mountains. It invites miracles. It softens hardened hearts. Your faith doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be real. A whisper of surrender is louder in heaven than a scream of panic. Saint Anthony hears both, but he rushes to the whisper, because that's where trust lives. Do you want peace more than control? Joy more than certainty? Then let this mystery become your lifestyle, not just a prayer you say, but a way you live. Trusting, surrendered, expectant. This isn't weakness. This is strength on a spiritual level. Saints are not people who had perfect plans. They're people who surrendered perfectly. And Saint Anthony is ready to walk with you into that same kind of freedom. You don't need to see the full picture. You only need to take the next faithful step. Say the next honest prayer. Breathe the next trusting breath. Saint Anthony will handle the rest. That's what intercession means. If your soul feels like it's been holding on too tight, let this be your invitation to release. Let Saint Anthony take what's too heavy, and in that sacred surrender, your urgent miracle begins to unfold. Write this now if your heart is ready to release control. Saint Anthony, I surrender everything, and I trust you completely. Walking in full confidence that the miracle is already on the way. There comes a time in prayer when the question is no longer, will it happen, but am I ready to receive it? That's what this mystery is about. Stepping fully into trust. Not partial hope, not cautious optimism, but full, radical confidence that your urgent miracle is already in motion. When you walk in that confidence, something shifts inside you. You begin to speak differently, think differently, pray differently. That's not arrogance. It's alignment. It's the moment your spirit says, God's got this. And Saint Anthony is right beside you, nodding in agreement. Confidence in prayer doesn't come from seeing results. It comes from knowing the one who hears you. It's not about control. It's about conviction that Saint Anthony has brought your request before heaven's throne. That heaven is already responding in divine timing. Faith says God can. Trust says God will. But confidence says, God is already doing it. That's where this miraculous prayer to Saint Anthony leads you, into a spiritual posture where peace replaces panic and expectancy silences doubt. Many believers stop praying too soon. They walk away right before the breakthrough, not because God failed, but because they let fear speak louder than faith. Saint Anthony won't let you walk away. He's here to remind you, you're closer than you think. A woman in Argentina once testified that after praying to Saint Anthony for her financial breakthrough, she woke up with a strange calm. The bills weren't paid yet. Nothing had changed externally, but something had shifted in her soul. That peace, it was the first sign of the financial advancement she was about to receive. This is the mystery where fear no longer leads, where your faith is no longer conditional on the outcome. Saint Anthony teaches you to walk as if it's done, to act with dignity, to expect open doors, because expectation is the soil where miracles grow. Start speaking as if your miracle is already forming. Thank you for restoring my family. Thank you for healing my body. Thank you for turning my finances around. That's not delusion. That's prophetic alignment with what God is already doing. You can have joy before the breakthrough. You can smile before the answer comes. You can rest even in the storm, because trust is your anchor. And Saint Anthony is steering your prayer straight to heaven's response. God doesn't tease. He doesn't stir hope just to abandon it. If your heart has been moved during this prayer, if your spirit has stirred with faith, that is evidence that the miracle is on its way. Saint Anthony didn't bring you here to disappoint you. This mystery requires boldness. It dares you to believe when nothing has changed yet. To celebrate while you wait, to testify before the manifestation. That's the kind of faith that heaven honors. That's the kind Saint Anthony empowers. Speak your faith out loud, even if you're alone, even if it feels awkward. Declare it. My miracle is already happening. Don't just hope, prophesy. Don't just ask, receive. Let your words create space for heaven's answer. When you shift from worry to worship, from stress to surrender, your heart becomes a landing strip for the miraculous. Saint Anthony walks with those who walk in faith, even when the road is dark. He lights the path. The enemy's greatest fear is not your problem, it's your confidence. Because once you realize God is for you, once you walk in the certainty that the prayer to Saint Anthony is opening heavenly gates, fear loses all power over you. Let this be your reality, waking up in peace, making decisions with wisdom, praying without anxiety, living with assurance. That's what faith matured looks like. That's what impossible requests demand, not panic, but peace. One man prayed for a job for months with no response. Then one morning he dressed as if he had already been hired. That same day, he got a call with an offer. His shift from despair to confidence created a spiritual magnet for breakthrough. This confidence is not just a feeling, it's a spiritual weapon. Use it, speak it, stand in it. Let Saint Anthony be your example. He never doubted God's ability, even when he was sick, lost, rejected. His faith was a fire that heaven always honored. When you trust fully, your actions follow. You prepare the nursery before the baby comes. You clean the house before the guest arrives. You start tithing before the financial blessing. That's what faith that expects looks like. Let this prayer be your preparation. Let your confidence decorate the walls of your heart. Let your trust open the windows. The urgent miracle isn't just possible, it's already approaching. You're in the middle of its arrival. Saint Anthony isn't just praying for your miracle, he's preparing you to receive it. And sometimes that preparation is the miracle itself. You become stronger, wiser, softer, bolder, more like Christ. That's heaven's real work in you. If you've battled doubt, let it go. If you've clung to timelines, release them. If you've whispered, but what if it doesn't work? Now whisper something greater. What if it's already working? That's the mystery speaking through you. Confidence is not loud. It's rooted. It's steady. It's the quiet fire in your bones that says, I know who goes before me. And Saint Anthony walks with those who hold on to that truth like a lifeline. You are no longer pleading, you are proclaiming. You are no longer surviving, you are expecting. Let every thought, every word, every decision reflect that new identity. You are someone walking toward their miracle, with eyes wide open. There is no shame in believing big. Heaven never punishes bold faith. Saint Anthony reminds you, God delights in audacious trust, in the kind of faith that refuses to back down, that stands in the storm and says, I believe anyway. Write this now if your heart believes the miracle has already begun. Saint Anthony, I trust you. My miracle is already happening. May the peace that surpasses all understanding now enter your heart, calming every storm within. May the presence of Saint Anthony of Padua walk with you wherever you go, guiding your thoughts, your decisions, and your steps. May your impossible situation begin to shift, even as you take this next breath. Heaven has heard you. The miracle has already begun. May your body receive healing, not just of the flesh, but of every emotional wound, every hidden grief. May your spirit rise up in strength, clothed in new faith, anchored in divine love. May Saint Anthony whisper hope into the darkest corners of your soul, reminding you that nothing is ever truly lost. God is restoring even what time tried to erase. May your finances begin to change. May unexpected provision find you in the quietest hour. May financial advancement not just arrive, but multiply, so you may bless others as you've been blessed. May lack be replaced with divine abundance and fear with gratitude. What was empty will be filled. May your home be covered in grace. May every relationship marked by pain begin to heal. May restoration of family relationships start quietly through a call, a gesture, a softening of the heart. Let this prayer be the seed of a new beginning, one that only heaven could plant. May Saint Anthony intercede for unity and peace in every room. May those who feel forgotten be remembered. May those who have lost everything receive more than they imagined. May your tears water the ground of miracles, and your prayers rise like incense before the Lord. Saint Anthony knows your name. He carries your cry. May the doors that were shut begin to creak open, and those that no longer serve your purpose be closed with love. May clarity replace confusion. May boldness rise where hesitation once lived. You are not walking blind. You are walking with Saint Anthony at your side. May divine favor go before you like a shield. May your voice be heard in heaven and your petition answered on earth. May what was delayed be delivered. May what was stolen be restored. May what was dead come back to life. May you no longer live in survival mode, but in surrender. No longer in fear, but in faith. May this powerful Catholic prayer for miracles not be a one-time event, but the beginning of a new spiritual rhythm, a new intimacy with God, a new way of believing. May others look at your life and see God's goodness written all over it. May your testimony inspire, your presence uplift, your joy overflow. You are the proof that miracles still happen. You are the story that's being written one line at a time by heaven's pen. May Saint Anthony never leave your side. May he become your constant companion in prayer, your trusted advocate, your faithful intercessor. And may you always remember, when others say it's impossible, Saint Anthony smiles and says, "Watch what God can do." May courage fill your chest. May hope never leave your eyes. May you wake up tomorrow with a sense that something is different. Because it is. Heaven moved. The spiritual realm shifted, and you are walking into answered prayer. May every step you take echo with divine guidance. May every challenge be met with supernatural strength. May every day be filled with small signs that remind you you are not alone. Saint Anthony is praying with you, and your miracle is near. May you begin to see with new eyes, not just what is, but what could be. Not just what's broken, but what's being rebuilt. Not just your need, but your testimony. You are not just surviving this season, you are being transformed in it. May joy return to you not just as an emotion, but as a companion. May your home be a place of peace. May your mind find rest. May your soul find strength. And may your story be one of impossible grace. And finally, may this prayer never leave you. May its words echo in your spirit. May Saint Anthony's presence guide you. And may your faith, quiet, steady, unshakable, carry you into the miracle that has already begun. What will you do with this faith now blooming inside you? Will you keep it hidden, or will you live like someone who truly believes their miracle is coming? What if this prayer marked the turning point of your life? Will you hold on to it? Will you act like your answer is already on the way? What if Saint Anthony is already preparing your victory? Are you ready to walk through the open door? Are you willing to speak boldly, live differently, and inspire others by simply trusting a little more? Each day, your faith is not just a whisper, it's a declaration, and heaven has heard it. You are not the same person who started this prayer. Something has shifted. You've moved from desperation to expectation, from fear to peace, from waiting to welcoming. What you asked for is already drawing near. Now ask yourself this: if your miracle depended on one final act of boldness, would you do it? Would you speak, share, testify? Would you let others see what Saint Anthony has done in your life? If this prayer touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Someone in your family, someone in your circle is silently praying for a breakthrough. Be the messenger. Share this video now. Let Saint Anthony reach them through you. Leave your amen in the comments as a public act of faith. Let others know they're not alone. When your miracle happens, and it will, come back and tell us. Your story might be the hope someone else is clinging to. Click the like button if you believe Saint Anthony is moving in your life. It's a small action, but one that opens the way for thousands of others to join in this same prayer. Let your yes to God multiply into 1,000 blessings. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel. Make it your sacred space. Because the next miracle might be one prayer away. Write it in the comments now. Thank you, Saint Anthony. I believe my miracle is on the way.